Let me be very, very clear.
Coach Sean Miller is captured on an FBI wiretap.
I have never arranged or directed payments to a recruit, and I never will.
These are all upper level players. Camps are all open, and none of them are signed.
The Braves are concerned about the way their top prospect wears his hat.
That's Bazooka Joe. That's as American as bubblegum.
Cavaliers' J.R. Smith served a one-game suspension for throwing a bowl of soup at assistant Damon Jones.
We're talking soup. Welcome to the Friday Four. I'm Ryan Smith in for Bob Lee. A lot to cover today. Jeremy's thinking about soup already. Split pea, I don't know.
Split pea is the best.
Oh, so good.
Is she swat?
Chicken and dumpling. Well, but we digress. Gone, a college coach from his job. After sending an odd email, J.R. Smith soup also gone. A lot of things gone this week. We got a lot to cover. You'll see what I mean. Clinton Yates, by the way, here to tell us the way you wear your hat should not matter.
Correct.
And by the way, yesterday Kate Fagan had a bone to pick with Shaq, and now she wants to live in his house. So we'll get to that in a second. And then Jeremy Schaap wants to give a home. Huh?
Schaap rhymes with Shaq.
It sure does. He wants to give a home to all those unsigned baseball free agents out there. Got a few $100 million to spare?
Naturally.
Good. All right. Of course he does. Let's start with the big story this week. You know, late last week, our own Mark Schlabach reported a bombshell. Arizona coach Sean Miller caught on an FBI wiretap discussing a $100,000 payment for then star recruit DeAndre Ayton with Christian Dawkins, a runner now facing charges as a result of the FBI's corruption investigation. Now, Miller released a statement on Saturday saying he would be vindicated, sat out the game on Saturday, and after 5 days of silence from his camp, yesterday was a different story.
I have never paid a recruit or prospect or their family or representative to come to Arizona. I never have and I never will. Let me be very, very clear. I have never discussed with Christian Dawkins paying DeAndre Ayton to attend the University of Arizona. In fact, I never even met or spoke to Christian Dawkins until after DeAndre publicly announced that he was coming to our school. Any reporting to the contrary is inaccurate, false, and defamatory.
At this time, we have no reason to believe that Coach Miller violated NCAA rules or any laws regarding the allegation reported in the media.
The only thing I can say is I stand by what I reported on Friday night, and based on my reporting this week, I have no reason to believe that anything in that article is inaccurate.
Just very, very emotional. The Tucson and our fans, they've always been the very, very best to my family and myself, and have supported our basketball program like no other. And, to see them do that is very emotional and, something I'll never, ever forget.
Okay, so all that was on Thursday, and let's just put this out there. There are other news agencies that are reporting something different than what ESPN reported. We are standing by the story of Mark Schlabach and what he said about Miller. Miller is defiant. He's going the other way. So there's a lot going on this week. Clinton, when you heard what he said yesterday?
When I heard what he said yesterday, I got to be honest, it didn't strike me as defiant. It struck me as very measured. It struck me as very concerned. And if I'm being real, he looked a little embarrassed about how this has all played out over the course of the last 2 weeks. And I think for good reason. Sean Miller's a guy who's a basketball lifer. We know him ever since he was a kid dribbling on TV, went to Pitt. He is a famous guy in college basketball circles. But overall, what are we talking about here? There's still a federal investigation. Book Richardson still got arrested by federal authorities, still got fired, still potentially faces 60 years in prison for his role in a bribery scheme. Look, I understand that Sean Miller himself might not be the guy who is necessarily the one on the block, so to speak, but this does not look good for Arizona. No matter what comes of this investigation right now, it's not a good look, Kate.
Yeah. More than defiant, which I didn't see quite as much as I saw him skillfully carving a path through the woods, and perhaps the only path that existed. And by that I mean that the language was the path he was carving through. I mean, using words like knowingly, of course, like your attention is raised with that word because it's much easier to prove what happened, and that's hard enough, as opposed to prove who knew what happened and when. I mean, we can go back to Watergate with that specific saying. Questions about just the verbiage of, I didn't pay him to come to Arizona. Okay, it raises the question, okay, did you pay him once he got to Arizona?
But he's actually
Did you pay someone else at a different school? I mean, obviously, these are all things that are now open questions because of the language that he chose.
But Jeremy, he's also saying, I never discussed with Christian Dawkins paying DeAndre to attend the University of Arizona, never spoke to him. He's denying everything that we've claimed here in that wiretap.
It certainly seems as if, this is a kind of blanket denial, but it is. If you really drill down, it's more of a specific denial, like Clinton was saying. It's interesting, Kate, you bring up Watergate. I was thinking as I was watching some of this, it's kind of like that big moment in the investigation when Woodward and Bernstein have Hugh Sloan on the record saying that it is Bob Haldeman, who's one of the guys who controls the slush fund, and then Sloan denies that he told that to the grand jury, and it turns out he just wasn't asked about it. Mm-hmm. So, and that's one of the big moments as they were trying to break everything down. So I'm not saying that, Sean Miller is Bob Haldeman or Hugh Sloan or anything like that, but I'm just saying we're going to find out what's really on those tapes at some point, and until then, there's going to be denials and counter-denials and semi-denials.
Can I ask you guys a question? Was what he said yesterday, was that enough? Because you all are talking about how he measured his response. He said certain things. He crafted his language in a particular way. And there's a lot of people that see that and they say, yeah, why don't you just come out and say, that's a lie. I didn't do that. Let me take your questions. Because he walked off after that and didn't take questions.
It depends if the question is who was it enough for. It was certainly enough for Arizona basketball fans. It was certainly enough for a casual
but he's thinking
college
about his